Hello and welcome along to another one of my podcasts here for you Patreons. It's Enwrong, Ben of RL Ireland. Joined on the list today by Sir Reginald Spreadsheets, the 42nd, I think it is, and LTXSam. Boys, how are we?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, excited to talk about the WRS first monthly. It was a very good tournament to watch and to sort of be involved in. So, yeah, looking forward to talk about it.
Perfect. And Sam, how are you? You good?
Yeah, fantastic as always. The
Fantastic
tournament.
after what happened yesterday. But look, we'll come to that. But I'm just surprised that you're fantastic after what happened yesterday. Like that's a big shocker to me, to be honest with you.
I suppose I've just recovered fast. I've to be honest, I had some kind of expectation beforehand that I would go something like that. I don't know why. Some
Probably
kind of,
because you chose Panda as a teammate, but that's another story. We'll come back
well,
to it.
yeah, inevitable. Fair.
Okay, cool. Let's start then. Anyway, of course, everyone who obviously is listening to this as a Patreon is very well versed in what WRS is at this stage. Wild Rocket Series, of course, sponsored by our partners WYLDE Esports. Please make sure to follow them on Twitter. That really helps us and really helps them. So do try and follow them on all social platforms. And also, we just want to thank them as well for the prize money that we were able to put on yesterday. And of course, they were able to help us out in terms of the casters and the streamers that we have as well. So just a thanks to obviously Res, who's on the desk here, and JaRyan, they're the two admins. And we also want to thank Squid G, who was our streamer, and both our casters, Morky Mork and Nua Leok. Okay, guys, look, let's get into it. In terms of the brackets, I'm just going to pull up on the screen here now the double elimination part of the bracket. And I'm just going to just mess around with it. But look, let's start. Res, you obviously have a real inside view on this because you were the admin. But how did the tournament run for you? I guess as a spectator, and as an admin.
Yeah, I think the tournament went. It took some fairly interesting turns. Obviously, there weren't too many particularly close series, but there were a couple of little upsets. Some teams that perhaps overperformed expectations or underperformed expectations, and I think, given I was the one that seeded the tournament initially, I think there is something there of the whole. This is where sort of seeding was where I expected them to finish. So having teams finish in differing places and see sort of where people finished in reality, I think is a really good gauge of who performed well and who maybe didn't achieve what they were hoping for.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Sam. Now it's obviously a very difficult thing for you to talk about, considering you had to 1v3 your way throughout the bracket. But I guess look, let's take it firstly as let's take it completely separately as a spectator of the tournament and how everyone was, I guess, enjoying it. Did you enjoy it as a spectator? And any comments on that?
I spent probably the better half of the day spectating because there's only so far you can 1v3 apparently. But no, I think it ran really well. A couple of the teams not showing up, like for example mine, for the 2/3 of mine anyways, changed a lot of the results. But beyond that, I think it ran really well. Most teams did show up, which is really good to see, especially when you're getting like 30 or so teams. And it was kind of cool to see some nice upsets, especially kind of teams that were getting top 4, top 2. A lot of them wouldn't have really been expecting that result. So yeah, it's very. I don't know, it's just good as a spectator.
And they have your dear friend Tamesy to thank for that, but that's another talking point for another day, perhaps. Or maybe later on, but we'll see. Look, we're looking at the bracket here now. Obviously, I have the bracket up on screen. So for you two, what I have up is basically just the top half of the double elimination bracket. Most of it went as expected, in my opinion. Baba Booey made it through, so did Team, and so did Pazerde. Now, obviously, because your team Sam didn't show up, two dubs and one Nordy made it to the game versus Curry Noodles, and Curry Noodles took the expected win there, I would say. The only games, I guess, that were kind of a surprise here, well, in terms of the seeding, Bolton Albion FC, Res, taking down your team, My Lovely Spreadsheets. How did that make you feel?
I knew going into the tournament that was always going to be one of the closer matches that the team that I would have been on or the team that I'm a member of would have been taking part in. I was impressed though, from a neutral standpoint, from the tournament admin standpoint. I was impressed with how Bolton Albion FC performed. Dry, Pengu, and Darcy. Lots of people thought that Pengu not playing that much of the game anymore. Dry or Darcy, should I say, almost relegating last season in Premier Six Mans. A lot of people thought that they'd just be another mid-table team, but to give them all the credit that's due, they've performed fairly well. 3-1 in game 1, 3-2 in game 2. Can't take it away from them, but I must say I was a bit disappointed that my team lost that, but we move.
Cool. The only other one I guess that of note there was press X to jump, which was the Jaffa little dude and Goldie team took a game off Hazard. Would that have been surprising for you, Sam, or would you have expected or assumed that they could potentially cause an upset there, or was that a surprise?
I think Press X's jump is playing at a decent enough disadvantage between Little Lude's ping and Jaffa's consoleness, and also it being quite a last-minute team. But I think the players as individuals, especially on that day, have the quality to play at that level and maybe even exceed it if they were at 100%. But yeah, I don't see that as a massive upset. I feel like the only part of that that's an upset is when you take into account the lag and consoleness.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Look, in the upper bracket, there was only 2 games other than that were, I guess, quote unquote, a surprise. Or not a surprise, but there was one upset, which was in the very first game of the day, Nabukali versus Harry Potter in the Musty Double. Harry Potter in the Musty Double coming out with a 2-1 win. Whereas considering Ryan, the Rye boy, Lucra, Aiden going up against Jada Prayer, Laps, and Berry 97, that must have been a surprise. I heard it went to overtime in game 3 though.
It did. That was one of the games that John streamed in Lobby 2. Really, really close series. One of the closest series I've seen all day. Very back and forth stuff. Obviously, Nabukli, Lucra not really playing the game. Aiden not really playing the game. Ryan, I'm not sure how much he's playing, but I don't think he's playing 10 hours a day or whatever. So it's really sort of the old guard coming up against some of the newer and sort of still improving players of Jade Spray Labs and Berry, and it was such a hard one to call. You see, you could call it at one point in the series and call it one way. A minute later, you'd end up changing your mind because 2 goals have been scored. In the end, could have gone either way, but Harry Potter and the Musty double touch took it, and yeah, that was a big win for them.
Cool. Final notable things to talk about in this side of the bracket. There were no other surprises, of course. Look, Rustlers FC, MK, Marvels, and Deus taking a game off of Riser, Barzi, and Naylor. Considering how well 2 Dubs 1 already played later on, for me personally, that would have been a surprise considering they lost a game there. But they obviously destroyed them in game 3, 6-2. The other one, well, there's 2 other ones to talk about. One of them was a very close in terms of seeding, which was Big Bunda versus the Facios, 2-1 there. We played the Facios, my team, later on today. They weren't actually that bad. You could tell that they'd never played together before, but mechanically they were all right. But the other big one in the upper bracket, other than the Nabukli and Harry Potter one, Sam, I know you might not know too much about this, but D Lynch was not particularly happy. I mean, they lost this one, 2 gets 1 Brit, lost 2-1 to Carbon Zero. Now, considering, and spoiler alert, Carbon Zero made the final of the whole thing, and they only won game 3 rather by a goal. D Lynch maybe every right to feel a little bit upset with the result of this one?
I don't think so when you consider Carbon Zero plays the field just about every day, and not only that, which is a pretty significant advantage, always playing with the same team, but you also got 3 players that are probably better than the likes of D Lynch and Fast. I think there's a bit of a different level, but maybe that's just an opinion. But I don't know. I'd almost consider it a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's look at the lower bracket then very quickly. We'll just go through it. A few surprises, I guess. Is it Rogue Rockets versus Rustlers FC? Who the hell are these guys? Rogue Rockets, I have no idea who these guys are, but considering they got beaten 3-0, that's probably not an upset. No, it's not. I'll test Taste Rainbows. Team Good Man Taste Rainbows.
Yeah, I think I played them.
Yeah, that was the team you 1v3 successfully, wasn't it?
That was the one that was the successful W indeed. The rest of them were complete obliterations by the likes of Forehead and Naylor. So yes, it was a sad day, but got 1-1.
Cool. Look, not too many things to note, I guess, in the lower bracket. The ones that I saw that were notable, like obviously round 1, it's hard to say because it's not really seeded right. It's not based on I guess upsets in that one. So like you can see almost all of them were won by the second seed, technically, but I don't think that's necessarily correct. From round 2, we had no upsets, of course, if you discount Sam 1v3 people and losing. Round 3, there was an upset. Jaleza, J.O. Dalek, and some other guy, what was his name again? Tuggy, losing to, somehow losing to Decomp, Python, and their teammate, which was, can someone remind me of his name?
Is that how you say it?
Canutha, yes.
Yes, I am sure they appreciate me calling them Nutter, but fantastic.
Yeah, 2-1 there.